In January of the year 2012, a great tragedy befell Leafs Nation. Phil Kessel, amongst the league leaders in goals and points throughout the regular season, was left off the All-Star starting roster. We now go to Toronto for Heavy Wiggle and a special commentary.
Who friggin' cares?
Oh, the good old hockey game is the best game you can name. And the best game you can name is the good old hockey game.
Morning, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Sunday Morning Manager. I'm Heavy Wiggle.
And I'm Seb. How are you doing?
And this week we're going to be talking about All-Star voting, selection, and basically everything you want to know about the game.
If you actually care.
Well.
My problem, of course, with All-Star games is that it's the big event of the year, and it looks nothing like an actual hockey game. In my opinion, with the Winter Classic getting all the attention these days, you might as well just drop the All-Star game altogether. Because
true.
At least the Winter Classic's a real hockey game.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you don't have scores being some ridiculous like 15-10 for the final score of the All-Star game.
Yeah, exactly. So yes, well, All-Star voting we're going to start with. Honestly, why does this topic keep coming up every year? I mean, granted, I understand that you want the fans to be involved. But at the same time, every year the same argument comes up. Why is this guy getting the starting position? Why is this guy a leading vote getter? Why is this guy not in the, on the starting lineup? It's because the local fans stuff the ballot. And you get players who just shouldn't be All-Stars on the All-Star team. And it's a silly argument, it's a silly debate that we have every year. I don't have a problem with the fan vote. I do have a problem with them being starters. My opinion, the starters should be the best players at that position.
Definitely. I mean, the fact that Milan McCulloch, maybe he deserved to be on the All-Star team, maybe he didn't. But the fact that he got picked ahead of Joffrey Lupul and Phil Kessel, who were both in the top 5 in scoring at the time, just blows my mind. It's ridiculous.
No, and if you look at it, obviously you want to have some local representation from Ottawa. I don't have a problem with Erik Karlsson being on the All-Star team. He should be there. Craig Anderson should be on the All-Star team. I have no idea why he isn't. He's carrying this team. But Milan McCulloch? Milan McCulloch, yeah, he has 24 goals. He also only has 31 points. Daniel Alfredsson, yes, this season is likely his swan song, but come on! And it's not just the fact that, Kessel and Lupul aren't starting. The Sedins, Claude Giroux. Claude Giroux is the MVP this year, hands down, and he is getting no respect.
It doesn't make any damn sense to me. I mean, the thing I liked about this year was that we actually had a plan called Project Mayhem. I don't know if you heard about this, Seb.
I did, and I highly doubt it had the impact people thought.
I was so hoping that would succeed, because then you have, all the great Sens players from years past, Danny Heatley, Martin Havlat, all the guys that they tried to develop and then let go for no apparent reason. Wade Redden, who's now in the AHL. Well, he probably wouldn't have made the ballot, but, you have all these guys being voted onto the team. How amazing would that be to have them as the starters? To just totally screw with the voting system and make it the farce that it is.
Well, exactly. This is the thing. Everybody forgets about the Vote for Rory campaign, which was set up to expose All-Star voting for the, as you said, the farce that it is. Well, you know what? Honestly, somebody should have started a campaign to have Wade Redden in as a write-in candidate. I would have loved to have seen an NHL washout who is currently making $7 million to play in the farm team get a write-in ballot with 500,000 votes to the NHL All-Star Game, just to highlight how inept this is.
That would be I would have voted for Wade Redden like 10 times just to get him on the team.
Absolutely. And now that speaking of course, being on the team, we come to the NHL Fantasy Draft, which, like the game itself, is a TV gimmick. I mean, it's just something there to desperately drum up some interest and get people to watch. And of course, we now have the two captains. Surprise, surprise, it's Daniel Alfredsson and Zdeno Chara. So, here's the question. Who are they going to pick? And who's going to get picked last this year?
Well, to disagree with you for a minute there, Sev, I actually find the fantasy draft to be, well, in some ways more interesting than the All-Star game. But I mean, yes, it is
more interesting than the All-Star game.
Well, yes, but it is to drum up ratings and whatever. But I mean, to see these guys pick each other in this schoolyard type pick, hey, that's the way we all got picked for hockey teams on the pond back in our back in our kid days. So anyway, but yes, this question was sent in by a viewer. He wants to know who's going to get picked last, who's going to get picked first, and where do the Leafs players stack up.
Yes. Well, you know what? I think I'm going to start at the bottom. But I'm not properly dressed for this. Hang on a second.
Ooh.
You see, what's going to happen is that the Toronto Maple Leaf players are going to be picked last in the following order. Joffrey Lupul, Dion Phaneuf, Phil Kessel. Why? Because of the captains. Daniel Alfredsson and Zdeno Chara, the captain of the provincial arch rival, and of course, Zdeno Chara, captain of the Boston Bruins, Phil Kessel's former team. They are going to call each other. They're going to put their heads together and they're going to say, these three are going last and in this order. Kessel's going to be picked last so we can absolutely humiliate him again. Ah ha ha!
Wow. Very nice. Thank you, Sev, for that interesting analysis. I'm going to start with the first pick. And, I'm actually going to be serious here. So but first, I'm either seeing Evgeny Malkin, Steven Stamkos, or Claude Giroux. Because those three have been at leading points, scoring, or both for most of the season. You got to go with those guys because they have just been amazing.
Yeah, you got to go with Steven Stamkos as number one, leading the league in goals. He's the guy who's going to bring people out of their feet. Really, he's got the whole package there. He's everything you want in an all-star game. The speed, the flash, the finish. So you got to go with Steven Stamkos. He's your first overall pick. Now. I'm not entirely sure of the structure of the fantasy draft is anything like last year, so you have to start wondering which goaltender is going to get picked first and which one's going to be picked last. If you obviously Tim Thomas is going to be the first overall pick for goaltenders because he's Tim Thomas, right? But
yeah,
at the same time, it's an all-star game, so is he really going to put that much effort into it?
Well, when you have scores as 15-10, yeah, the goaltender's basically there to just kind of look good, or look bad because he's getting embarrassed all over the place.
Yes, and so I think Timmy Thomas will probably be the first goaltender taken. That's probably the safest bet. Defenseman is where it starts to get interesting because again, defense is not exactly a traditional part of the All-Star game, so you're going to want somebody who can, bring a lot more sizzle to the game than normal. Of course, Nicholas Lidstrom is sitting this one out, so I think the first defenseman that's going to be picked is actually Ottawa's Erik Karlsson. He's a perfect fit for the All-Star game. He's, end-to-end rushes, that's what he does. So I'm thinking Erik Karlsson is definitely going to be the first defenseman picked.
I'm going to disagree with you. I think they're going to go with Brian Campbell. This guy is having pretty much a career year out in Florida. He is leading the NHL in... No, he's not. This guy is having a breakout year out in Florida. He is back on form the way he was in Buffalo and in Chicago. You got to go with Brian Campbell.
Well, interesting pick. I don't particularly have a problem with that, and given the fact he doesn't actually have to play defensively, it could, it does play to his strong suit. And now, of course, rookies. Who is going to be the first rookie taken this year, do you think?
Ooh, this is an interesting question because, there are a lot of interesting picks on the rookie team. Adam Larson, Gabriel Landeskog, sure, they're having great years, but, I'm going to have to go with Ryan Nugent-Hopkins. He is by far the most impressive rookie so far.
Oh, come on. What's impressive about an 18-year-old being in the top 10 in scoring in the league? You gotta give me more than that. No, it's a gimme. It's like Stamkos being first overall. It's a gimme. It has to be. All right, and finally, the Leaf players. Where do you think they're going to be going?
Well, Sev, this is an interesting question. I think if there's any justice in the world, we will see Phil Kessel pick top 5, Joffrey Lupul pick top 10. I mean, you got to do that. But I mean, and as for where Dion Phaneuf's going to go, kind of tough because you always want to pick in any fantasy draft, you always want to pick your defenseman later. But I see Dion Phaneuf going mid-draft. Probably we'll start to see him, halfway point or 2/3 of the way through.
More than likely, he's having a very good year, but again, defenseman in the All-Star game, not that big a deal. I know there are people out there who are saying, oh, he'll probably be one of the last picks overall, but let's keep in mind the 161 players who voted him the most overrated player in the NHL. Odds are they're not going to be at All-Star weekend.
Definitely.
Yeah. So that wraps up the show for this week. We'll be back following the skills competition and the fantasy pick to see if anything interesting popped up over the week and if the draft was actually, as shattering as last year's.
Thanks for watching. I'm Happy Wiggle.
I'm Sev.
We'll see you later.